Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
Sadashiva Samarambham
Sadashiva Samarambham
Shankaracharya Madhyamam
Shankaracharya Madhyamam
Asmadacharya Paryantam
Asmadacharya Paryantam
Vande Guru Paramparam.
Vande Guru Paramparam.
So Shikaji and Manishji have said they are not attending today. Okay, fine, no problem. So we have 4-5 of them here. Okay, fine. We'll continue with sorry.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, today is Guru Purnima. Sir, Guru Purnima.
Okay.
No, I think on 10th
It's Ashwadi Ekadashi, sir.
Achha, oh.
It's Ekadashi. It's Ekadashi. Yes. Fine. So until last time we saw verse 64. We will move towards 65 and then discuss 65 today. So I'll read it verbatim first and then we will go for explanation. Jagrat Swapna Sushuptishu Sputataram Yo Asau Samujrumbhate Pratyak Grupataya Sadaha Mahamiti Antaha Spurannekadha Nanakara Vikara Bhagina Imana Pashyan Ahandhi Mukhan Nityananda Chidatmana Spurati Tam Vidhi Swametam Hridi. So the direct translation goes this way. May you know in your buddhi as yourself that Atma as taught now. So all this while what is Atma was being discussed, who clearly shines independently by itself in the waking, dream and sleep, always shining in the same form as I. So aham ahamiti. So I. So twice it's mentioned as the innermost self, objectifying these various forms and modifications from ahankara onwards, and which shines in the form of ananda and consciousness that is not subject to time. Okay. So the methodology which is being adopted is to arrive at Atma by removing the notion about all those which are not that Atma. So basically all this Anatma was being identified from gross level to subtle level, grossest to subtlest. And the method was first everything that was outside the boundary of our skin, and then going inside also we were identifying all this Anatma part which constitutes this body mind sense complex. And the subtlest we went was up to Anandamaya Kosha. So we saw three models. We saw kind of two models. One is Shariratraya model, which is gross body, subtle body and causal body. Okay. And then Avasthatraya, the corresponding states. So which is waking state, dream state and deep sleep state. So Jagrata, Swapna, Sushupti. So this we saw, and we also saw the same thing split little bit further into 5 koshas. So Shariratraya is equal to Panchakosha. Panchakosha model goes little bit more subtler. That's why it is even more helpful. So when we arrive at Atma, for one to arrive at Atma, which is ever pure, not bound by anything for that matter, which is ever free, this is presented that way, right? One has to identify all those limited things, which is basically anatma, where we confuse ourselves to be. Everyone by birth has this default setting, we can call it, of wrong identification with one's body mind sense complex. So unless a person is told very clearly that okay, these are the list of things which you mistake yourself to be, unless this is said, one will not get clue. To a larger extent, by chance, if someone does meditation or gets into yoga, by chance, even without instructions also, if they also do a little bit by themselves also during contemplation, one can understand that okay, body is something which is different from this Sukshma Sharira. So mind is different from body, can be arrived at by someone, probably without help also. But to go beyond that level, where one has to understand that okay, you have a Sukshma Sharira, and beyond that you also have something called Karana Sharira, that part is very difficult to understand. If someone is lucky, they will reflect on their experience of deep sleep. Someone has to be lucky for that. All of us have this experience of deep sleep, where we sleep without dream. All of us are endowed with this capacity and this chance. Everyone, each jiva has this. If someone is able to reflect on that once they get up, as to why they felt that they didn't just even understand their size, and they didn't have any sense of an external world or an internal world. There was no world. So if they have that clue and that luck, then that may lead them to understand okay, there is something beyond mind as well can happen. Okay, since that is only by chance someone can arrive at, Shastra is providing that information as a spoon feed. Because it's possible that someone may not introspect, though they are undergoing that experience all the while. So Shastra is pointing that out to give a benefit of doubt to that person. So in this, what's happening? One in any case clearly can understand he is not that gross body, because there is an indweller who is deciding, who is desiring. Something is happening inside. So there is something inside this particular structure which is created. So there is an indweller, that's very clear. And then when this indweller is resolved, the resolution is known only when a person wakes up. And resolution happens when? During deep sleep. It's the other way also. When the resolution of this mind happens during sleep, that's when the Sushupti happens. And that's when the witness is there without any of this noise. It's not that witness suffers from all these noises. Not at all. All this limitation is only felt by this mind, the ego, the one who is inquiring. To that ultimate witness, there is no issue at all. Just like space, the way space is not affected by a drainage flow vis-a-vis a Ganga flow. Space is not at all affected by whether the particular material what is flowing is Gangaji or it is a drainage. Space is not at all affected. But is space providing the space for those things to move? Yes. That is the adhisthana on which all these things are working. Definitely. I am limiting this to only space as an example. So, without space, movement is not possible. Every tattva that is working, the grass tattva, everything what is working is because of space in this limited example. Whereas, space itself does not get tainted in this transaction. Once this goes off, once the other thing also flow off. I mean, you see a situation where something is flowing and then the flow is finished. The continuity is gone. After that, what obtains as a space there is pure space. Pure space, and that pure space cannot be identified separately from the total space. So this is where the technique of Mahakasha and Ghatakasha is introduced. So Ghatakasha is the limited space. Actually, space is not limited at all. The perception is, by looking at the boundary of this clay, we tend to say it is a limited space, because this is how our mind normally understands patterns. If something is bound, it feels that fine, something is captivated into that. Space which is there is captivated into that. So this is the understanding. In that you can also put water, put maybe gold coins, anything you want to fill it up, you can fill that pot with. Whatever you fill the pot with, that item, and not even clay, can taint space to whatever extent. To any extent, it cannot at all taint it. Luckily, after all this, material, chemical, everything, even adhesive, Fevicol, let Fevicol also be there, that is also in space. The beauty is space cannot get stuck with Fevicol also. Even if Fevicol is used, which is the great adhesive all of us have seen, even that cannot bind space. And space is that which accommodates even Fevicol without itself getting tainted or without itself getting stuck into that bondage. Though Fevicol creates all the bondage, space luckily does not get stuck in the powerful bondage of Fevicol. Okay, so this one can imagine, in an animated way. Similarly, this Pratyagatma, that which is pure, though that is the basis on which this entire Panchakosha is functioning. That's the real Adhisthana on which everything is functioning. In turn, it does not get tainted due to the Vyavahara of any of these things. Not at all. That is what Atma is. And that's what is being presented here. So, within this boundary, there are two things we saw. Just everything outside this boundary of our skin is Jagat. Ideally, Jagat has to include this body, mind, sense complex also, because we saw in Annamaya that unless we consume those food which is coming out of Jagat, which is outside of our skin, this entire system which we think is working independently cannot work. So it is ideally dependent. But for our example, we will think as though we are an independent entity inside, this particular boundary, and Jagat is everything outside of skin. So first thing, outside is Anitya Vastu, in any case it's changing, so we have let it out. Now the entire analysis is just inside this skin onwards towards inside. That's where this Shariratraya model was explained and Panchakosha model was explained, and Panchakosha model took us to such a subtle level which one cannot normally imagine. And those subtlest bodies as well, or kosha, whatever you can call it, they also were dispelled and they were proved and rejected to actually get the status of that Atma which is ever pure. So Annamaya Kosha, no way it can be Atma because Atma is ever existent. Annamaya Kosha exists as long as food is available. Done. Point. Like this, each of these were explained and the limitation of them was pointed out and the rejection was made for it to be taking the status of Atma. Those things cannot be Atma because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reasons. This is what was said. Now, having arrived at everything, that student was saying that, Guru, I understood everything. In the previous verses it came. Okay, now I understand everything that was possible where I could commit a mistake. And some of the cases where I could not even probably have even realized myself have been pointed out. And they have been very logically disproved to be that Atma. It can never be that Atma. Now I understand. So now he says that after all these things, all that I am understanding is a great void. Everything that was available as a gross knowledge is just not there. Fine, I understand that. But now what I'm seeing is only a void. So that's where I think the pointing out was that the one who is talking about a void still exists. So that trick one has to understand. He is still asking that question. He is still there. He is asking that question. Cognitively, he is throwing out all those things. But he is still asking that question saying, I am seeing a void. So that point has to be very clearly understood. When Atma is arrived at in this format, where we identify all those possible anatma where we can wrongly identify ourselves to be. When we say ourselves, it is basically Atma, right? In that sense. So where we can wrongly identify, we identify and throw them out. Normally when you throw them out, which is not you, then you arrive at yourself. Nothing more is there to confuse you. So this is the method being used. However, it is not all that easy also, as we understand from the experience of sadhakas. Even after this statement is mentioned, we still have another 34, 35 or 40 verses to go. So that knowledge, pure knowledge of one being Atma, and then of course the Aikya follows, is certainly difficult to arrive at instantly. It needs vichara. This is why vichara is hailed as one of the main ingredients of this moksha sadhana. So, arriving at oneself is what is happening here, and this line just goes to the next level where it says that please understand in your buddhi. One has to really understand this point. This entire pursuit is not meant for Atma. Atma is ever pure. This entire confusion or clarity, whatever is happening in that. It need not worry about it. Okay? It is like the story writer or producer of a movie who knows everything. He knows the climax, he knows the starting point, everything. And also all you have this behind the scenes stuff which happen, all errors that might have got committed, or some of the brilliant steps which would have happened, and they would have just happened momentarily, and this would have become a big hit in the movie, and it would have been never conceived. So the one who knows all these things happening is that ultimate witness. So Atma is that ultimate witness we are talking about. That need not come for inquiry because that is ever pure. Atma need not come for inquiry at all. The one who has ignorance, the one who is ignorant, has to inquire. So, somewhere in this Sukshma Sharira, where mind and intellect are involved, this is where this ego is somewhere stuck and placed in this level. At this level only it is stuck. So ignorance and all these wrong understandings, they are all a part of this mind and intellect. This is why the pursuit is more of knowledge. Only jnana can release a person from samsara. What is samsara? Samsara is the status where a person thinks he is a limited being, he has a sense of limitation, and the world is at large for him, creating problems as well, besides giving pleasures. And this is where he wants to come from this yo-yo, come out of this yo-yo situation, to understand what this real world is all about. It's keeping on changing, and in its change, sometimes it gives me pleasure, sometimes it gives me pain. And when the pain part is intolerable, that's when mumukshutvam happens a little bit more, and the sense of getting liberated quickly happens. That's what pushes one to the pursuit. So the person who is inquiring is this person who wants relief from samsara, and that is Sukshma Sharira only. It is basically this mind and intellect which is pursuing. This is the reason Vichara is being given, Vichara is being made. And since Shastra itself is pointing out that the entire basis of our understanding of samsara as it is today is based on a simple error. The first error. It's based on just one error. And what is that error? The error is about the wrong understanding of oneself. That's all. One's nature. We are of certain nature. We mistake ourselves to be something other than that. That's all. That's the only mistake that is being committed. Shastra is saying that this is the basis on which you are having this entire problem. You see world because you forgot who you are. You see there is, the moment you see world, obviously you have to account for a creator. And that's the reason you are worried about a God as well. And this wrong understanding of you gives you obviously these conclusions, and it makes you believe that what you're thinking is absolutely right, because transaction wise, if I touch fire, it definitely burns. If I touch water, yes, it cools me down. And if I eat sweet, I get that experience of sweetness. All this add up to one's own idea, a wrong idea, because they are making sense. Because of my sensory perception, I sense these objects, and if someone comes and says, hey, these objects do not exist, first thing I would say is you are talking nonsense. To that extent, we get stuck and bound by this wrong understanding. The wrong understanding is so strong. If you give a questionnaire, do you believe that this world exists? That person would have just, struck a deal one day before, buying a plot. So obviously, during the transaction, you believe that land is there. That's the reason you are going all the way to borrow loan and, sign all those papers and then get that plot. Oh, this is mine. This plot is mine. And the first thing you should do is you put a fence. So the gross understanding, the gross world understanding is so real, so real. If you happen to give a questionnaire to everyone to fill up, do you believe this world exists? The answer is very obvious. Answer is very obvious. This is what Shastra understands, that you have such a strong understanding, and the real understanding is that you say that the world is definitely real. There is no doubt whatsoever. You don't even entertain a doubt about it. That's the status. And Shastra understands this. And this is the reason it is saying, boss, your bondage is because of the first mistake what you have committed, that's all. It's an error. And if it is of a nature of error, It is not like what you can say, pimple on someone's skin actually, that हाँ boss ये जो है ना ये pimple से problem है, pimple निकाल दो. So it is not unfortunately so gross that just getting rid of one pimple, ajnana has gone. No, ajnana is little subtler. It has something to do with understanding, conception, misconception. It has to do with knowing or not knowing. So the tattva is more cognitive. Since the tattva is cognitive, the one who is in that field, the one who is transacting in that field is mind, not body. So as I said, when a neuroscientist, when a neurosurgeon or a doctor, he examines you, entire thing is to do with nerves, basically senses. Now, if you take out the nerve and then touch it, the nerve cannot sense at all. Nerve cannot sense at all. It has no sense. Nerve has a sense in the presence of two main things. The one is ultimate, which is that Atma. In that only everything is happening. The first thing is that actually. Any cognitive ability, any ability to know is that which belongs to this Chit. These will come further, but then I'm giving in the context right away here. So Chit is that which owns this property of knowing. Any cognition is of that actually. The entire world is just only cognition. The entire world is just Chit. That's all. That's all. Now, for this nerve to be really functional, first thing you need is that Sadvastu, which is Atma, you can say, in that everything is, so everything else is a subset of that only. Now, there are many layers, but the next big layer I will say is this person who is inside, in the form of Sukshma Sharira, body or not body, mind or intellect, whatever you can call it. Basically that Antahkarana, Bahya Karana, Antahkarana. So that Antahkarana is definitely a person there actually. There's a person there. That person is addressed. That person only is being asked. Now can you feel? So these gentlemen, what they do, some kind of a prick here, there. They say, okay, now I am going to prick, and you just say whether you are getting the feel. And they ask us to normally close our eyes. So because that sense has to already happen, right? So in this trick, you have to understand one thing. He is touching gross body, and since the nerve endings go up to the end of our skin. So anywhere you touch on the skin, the sense has to be there actually, because the nerve endings are there throughout our skin. From body touching up to the border of skin, all through. Now, when this doctor touches, when he does a prick, so there is touch signal which goes through this nerve, and nerves are trained in the sense they have this nature to pass on signals. So it's something like where you have a copper wire, so it has a tendency to pass on the charge, electricity charge, whereas wood is a resistor, it cannot. Similarly, copper is something which can pass the charge. So similarly, this nerve can pass the charge of the sense of touch, and it has to pass on somewhere. To whom it passes? It passes to brain. From an anatomy perspective, it is brain, you can call it. Even brain, it can only do as much. It can say, okay, what kind of signal came there. It's like a sensor, you can say, like a CCTV or a sensor, you can say. It's just a sensor, heat sensor, this sensor, that sensor, voltmeter, something like that. One of the sensors it is. After that, there has to be an interpreter. That's where this karana comes into picture, and the one who's touched has to now sense and answer. So this layer one has to understand. The one who's touched, that person has to answer now. That is definitely not this gross brain. When we say brain in anatomy, when we say nerve in anatomy, this is anatma. This is annamaya. Clearly annamaya. Don't eat. Stop eating. Brain is gone. Stop eating. Nerve is gone. If you don't have glucose, brain succumbs. just stops actually. Just imagine what kind of filthy thing it is. Just stops. Let the glucose come down to level 6. I've seen that with my father once actually. Gone, completely gone. So this is such a kind of dependent stuff on Annamaya, on Anna. Just imagine. So nerve and brain, definitely they are brilliant. What you can say, materials. They are amazing thing. There's no doubt about it. But for a person to interpret, yes, I am being touched, that cannot come from this jada which is Annamaya. Not at all. There is an indweller. That's where the confusion is. This indweller is somewhere stuck in the form of mind. He thinks, he's owning this body, he's stuck in this body, all this, that gentleman is being addressed actually. And it is this person we are talking about, where ignorance is located and where he thinks he is stuck in this body and he wants the fame through this body and he wants wealth through this body and he owns everything and attributes everything to this body, because that is the external figure he is giving to outside world. He owns this. That's where we own up. So the one who's owning is just not the skin actually. This is jada. The one who's owning is the indweller. That indweller is very important, and that's where ignorance is located. Ignorance of whom? Ignorance of the real nature of this indweller. That's where the problem is. And to a larger extent, you can say, without this Atma's Chaitanyatva being there, Chaitanyatva, the Chit, whatever is there, unless that is acting, this Sukshma Sharira combination also, the Sukshma Sharira coming about and having its property of thinking cannot happen at all. Because Sukshma Sharira also is subtle body. Subtle body means it is also formed of Pancha Mahabhuta only. The only difference is body, the gross body is more formed of this gross elements, I think, which has more of tamas side of it, and the sensory organs basically, they are made more of the sattva aspect of these elements, more of sattva actually. That's what is coming into this. And the organs of actions, they are formed more of rajas. Okay, so the sensory perception, mind, intellect, these are formed more of the sattva side of it. So that's the only difference. Otherwise, it is body all through. So it is something like where you make some kind of juice, leave it there for some time. Some of those whatever you mixed will sediment because it has got a little bit more density. It will sediment down. Next level, you will have a little lighter version of it. The top layer will be much more lighter, almost like water. So these three bodies basically, whether it is gross body or subtle body or causal body, they are only shades of basically Annamaya only, if you ask me. And the mix of all of them, the names which are given are because it is more subtler and subtler. That's the reason we have to give more names to it, to identify them, to differentiate them from the previous one. But finally, if you say everything is coming out of this gross elements, Pancha Mahabhuta only, we accumulate Pancha Mahabhuta inside us in the form of food. That's the only thing. That's why it's called Annamaya Kosha. Because for us, it comes to us in the form of food. It is not like, where in a lab, we are the ones who create all those things. So like God, we put this, we put that, and finally we arrive at some material. There, the food was given by us for creating those things. But in this case, where we are born, the food is given by external source to us actually. And once the child becomes independent, even when the child is child, it knows where the source of food is. It just goes towards the food. And child was never taught that, boss, you are formed of Annamaya, you better go and have milk. It was never taught, because the indweller was always there. The indweller was always there. This guy was always knowing this point of survival. Unless food comes, he will not survive. Is a very clear thing given either by the impulse from the stomach or wherever. But the guy knows very clearly, if I don't eat, I will not survive. As a kid, we know this. This knowledge need not come from Upanishads also. As a kid we know this. When we are born, we know nothing but food and the source of food. Just imagine. So that's how things are. So the indweller has been there right from there. And all of us know from all this scan what happens today, that prenatal also, that life form is already there and starts already working. Heartbeat is already there by that time. So our Shastras have spoken about all these things. Even when these instruments were not available, they have spoken about it. Where they have mentioned that Abhimanyu listened to certain things what Arjuna was talking to his wife. He listened. Similarly, the sage Ashtavakra, when he was in the womb of his mother, he listened to some of this, Veda Shastra that was being discussed, Vedanta which was being discussed by his father. To an extent, he was listening to such an extent that he could somehow convey. Yes, we can't imagine how he would have spoken, how he would have communicated, but maybe those who can understand that communication at that level, like at that frequency, perhaps they can understand. So, it was said that Ashtavakra, even when he was kid inside, he told his father, he pointed out a mistake what he created. While telling, I think his father probably stumbled somewhere, some kind of, some mistake, committed. He points out that. So obviously ego comes up. So his father was so angry. He said, no, how can you say this? And since it was repeated, he gave him a sharp, saying that you will be born with 8 dismodifications. So that is the reason that gentleman was called sage Ashtavakra. The name is Ashtavakra is because he was born with 8 dismodifications actually. So unfortunately due to the chapa. So from this the message we need to take is that the knower, the indweller, has been always there. He is only taking bodies, that's all. And of course it is said that yes, he takes that body what fits his karma. So that is also said some way. The point is that there is an indweller. This indweller who has mistaken his real identity. What is the real identity? The real identity is that he is not any of this Sharira. Gross body, subtle body, causal body. He is that ultimate only. He has to just look at the other side, where the source is. He is looking at effect. You look at body, you look at only body actually. So what kind of dress we can take, what kind of jewelry we can take, what kind of bindi we can take. This is what happens. Go inside, go to the other side. That's where the entire bindi factory is, the body factory is, the garment factory is, everything is in that. Oh God. So I have everything actually with me. So why do I even look at these small things which are a product of these things? The entire factory is mine. Look at just the other side. Flip. So the person who is wrongly understood has to only flip his understanding. Just flip to the other side. The world is him. This is what Shastra says. That which is ultimate is the one which is also appearing here, because Sarvam Khalvidam Brahmasya. All that is here is Brahman only. And of course, the computer what is here need not inquire on this Vichara, because it is not having ignorance. It is not cognitive, and even more so, it is not having ignorance, saying, okay, I am this computer. It doesn't have this kind of a wrong identity. That's the reason it need not worry about it. In this room, if there are people who can think, the jivas basically, they need solution because they have ignorance in them. So when we did this trick of identifying all these Sharira and saying that essence, who I am, is beyond all these 5 things, 5 koshas or 3 bodies. And I am that Atma. The name given is Atma. I am that Atma which is the witness to all these kosha. I am that one, that example of umpire, cricket umpire I always give. That umpire who knows everything what's happening, even including what's happening in the dressing room. And everything that is happening on the game, on the ground, we know, because I'm seeing it all the while. Someone did this, someone was abusing another person, the wicketkeeper was saying something within himself. Little bit, it could be heard through the microphone, which is kept in that stumps. So this gentleman, he has most of these things, he understands, he has got access to these things. So he's the witness. Something like that. That ultimate Atma, which one is, that's what Shastra is saying. Please understand this actually, you just switch your identity from X to Y. That Y is yourself, for example. Just switch the identity. Now you see the world. When you understand yourself to be everything, now Shastra is saying, see the world. Well, suppose where is world? Then Shastra will say, that's what I wanted to understand. When you understand Atma, when you arrive at Atma by throwing out the wrong understanding and wrong identification with these limited things, you arrive at a pure self. That pure self was already pointed out to be everywhere. So Atma's definition, I am quoting more from Tattva Bodha. It says, Stula Sukshma Karana Sharirat Vyatirikta. The one which was beyond these three bodies, Panchakosha Atita. Beyond the one which is beyond these five kosha, which is what we saw in the previous verses. Now the Shishya was saying, boss, now I see, nothingness, great void. That's why the next line is given, San Avasthatraya Sakshi. It is the witness of all the three avastha. So the witness is brought out here now. Now the person cannot come and say, I am not the witness. So when he understands this, he has to understand he is the witness. So the witness is there. Yes, anything other than the witness is not there. That is correct. Definitely correct. So, San Avastha Traya Sakshi. See, this is where that switch has to happen. You are going in one motorcycle, maybe that Chetak, and you are looking that model outdated ho gaya, ab kya karu? You are already worried about it, and you come to Vedanta class. Now, you thought you are that Chetak, and Vedanta says, boss, the outside part of Chetak is Annamaya. The entire thing is periodical table. Annamaya is equal to periodical table. The inside part, what you are seeing, is basically the physics tattva. It is energy, the way it works, magnetism, everything is there in that. When that is pointed out, and I'm just giving the example as close as possible. The indweller who's thinking he is this Chetak, the one who's owning, kind of, you can say, just next to him is this Mercedes Benz. Now you think of a Mercedes Benz which is minus all this gross body, whatever. This is ultimate, you can say. I'm giving the idea of Mercedes Benz because that is seen as, perceived as something great. So you have this. Now this beauty is when this Mercedes Benz is being introduced as the nature of this person. Basically you are this. That switch has to happen by this owner from Chetak to Mercedes Benz. This switch has to happen. He has to just jump from here and sit into that car. Job done. In this case, what is happening is, I'm giving gross example because mind only understands gross example. In this case, what's happening? Mind is the one which is stuck with ignorance. And mind is the one which has to be given knowledge. Okay, knowledge means this antidote. It is the one which has to pursue. It is the one which has to get treated. While getting treated, it is getting nullified and the identity switch is happening. See, when the identity switch is happening, it is unlike the previous example where I gave, where the driver jumps from one place to another. Here the difference is there. Here the person disassociates with the mind itself. But who has to disassociate it? Mind only. This is where the trick is. So mind has to understand that it is mithya. So there is a difference between mithya and asatya. So you have satya, you have asatya, you have mithya. Why mithya is a word that is used? Satya is that which always exists, right? And asatya is something which doesn't exist. Here, mind exists, but it is pointed out as a limited thing. And when understood that, okay, this is made of subtle body only, It's a body, it's still a body. It is made of Anna. Finally, it is a pure form of Anna, that's all. It's only pure form. Sattvic form of Anna is that actually. So once we understand finally matter is energy and this Antahkarana is more of energy. Finally that is also matter only, no? It's coming out of that only. So it suffers the limitation. Once the understanding is happening, mind has to just get neutralized. It has to just give up that ahankara. Because ahankara is located in the mind. And there, as I said, it is a combination of Atma and Anatma. It is a paradox. Atma is that which cannot be touched as much as space. This is the reason, space comes very handy. Someone can ask, what do you mean actually? You are saying Sukshma Sharira is formed of a combination of Atma. Everything, for example, is a combination of Atma and this Anatma, what you see. And you are saying that in any case that is untouchable, that can never be touched. I mean, if it is that, which can never be touched, how can you even put some bolt and nuts between Atma and this, subtle Anatma, so that, you can form mind there? That question can come. That's the reason we have this space example, which is beautiful. Space lends its existence to everything. Everything. That's why the name is coined that way, because of that karana. What it does. Avakashiyati iti akasha. It accommodates all. That's the reason it is called akasha. Such a beautiful thing, it accommodates everything. Everything. Whether it is a drainage or Gangaji. Both. It doesn't care at all. It accommodates a person who believes in Vedas, one who doesn't believe in Vedas, the one who abuses Vedas, whatever. It accommodates everyone. Agnostic, believer, non-believer, Vedanti, Jnani, every concept is in that, for example. So, space is very, very close approximation. That's the reason space always is used. So, space capacity or its property is to accommodate. That exists, you can call it that existence, you can say actually. So, it lends its existence to others. The trick here is, in what way then Atma, the self or Brahman, basically, the Aikya part will say that. In what way that is, much better than space. The only difference there is, that is Chit. Chit is the cognitive ability which is there in everything. So everything that is here, which has cognitive ability, is basically the Chit's part of it actually. So you borrow some part of Chit, that is what is able to manifest as mind and intellect. So this is basically from the Chit's capacity to be Chit and to lend Chit. So space lacks that actually. Space lacks cognitive ability, but it gives this existence part of it. It definitely does. So that's the reason you have to say all these things. That Chit, which is basically Chit, is also existence, because space itself borrows its existence from Chit actually. So it's only Chit everywhere. When Chit is not seen, you see space. When you see space, in the sense of, through the sense organs, obviously there is nothing interesting in space to be, stared at. You obviously turn your attention towards gross objects. So the line is so nice actually, Chit is that on which even the sense organ, everything is dependent. The indweller is dependent on Chit, even for the cognitive ability. Yes, he has borrowed that. Now he is asking, so what is Chit? Where is Chit? Chit, and he is trying to understand it through this medium of 5 senses. Chit is not available to 5 senses. And what he sees is void. The way that student was asking, he sees void. And void is, you can say, blank space, you can say. And in space, this sense organs has no interest. Because there should be something to sense, no? Nothingness is not a great thing to sense all the time. So, it will get attracted eventually to one small planet which is available, maybe at a distance of some billion, whatever light years. Something is available. Oh, that's great. So, from the space understanding, pure space understanding, normally our sense organs like more gross objects. This is the reason we concentrate more on gross objects. So hence a plot becomes a great asset. And that's why the questioner will say, do you feel world exists? Yes, strong yes. So we have to understand this indweller. That indweller is a mix of Atma and Anatma. And Shastra is saying, boss, Anatma part, just take it out. Stand as that Atma. While you are arriving at yourself, be very clear on what is being said. If Annamaya was very clearly explained to you, saying this is what Annamaya is, and how can it to be, how can that be fit to be yourself, which is pure Atma? You are that pure Atma. By any chance, is there any way that Annamaya can be you? No. The one who is throwing this out is throwing out from the point of view of Atma. And again this confusion will come. Who is then inquiring? The inquirer is mind and buddhi only. The mixed one only is inquiring, because the pure one need not inquire. No. See, I cannot add Atma to our group. Very difficult. I have to find. No. How will I find? I don't need to find. He's everywhere, so I don't need to add at all. Actually, he's already added by default into WhatsApp group, because the entire concept of WhatsApp is in Atma. So why do you need to add it? You don't need to add it. Like you can't add a total building or total society into one flat. No, it's not possible, because we are talking about everythingness. So everythingness has to be only accepted as everything. It need not be shopped. We can't say that now I am going to Veda Shastra, Veda class for a shopping. What shopping? I wanted everythingness. I am going to buy Brahman. No, it is you. It happens to be you. So when one goes this way, one has to understand, okay, if I am that Brahman, then why the hell I am inquiring? Good question. Or why the heaven I am inquiring? Now Swamiji's used this word heaven most of the times. Why the heaven I am inquiring? Because the one who is saying he's limited definitely has this conclusion, and world is at large for him. That's the reason it's very difficult for him to, palate this world. That's why this mixed guy, who is the indweller, has to be told the mix is the problem. Your idea of the mix is the problem. That's where you're getting mixed up. Don't get mixed up. Just distance yourself. The one who's pure, you are that Atma, distance yourself from those things. So prayatna, if you ask me, is not for Atma. Here it is only for the subtle body, mind and intellect basically. Mind and intellect has to be told to give up the wrong understanding. As mind and intellect gives up the wrong understanding, the next question will be, as mind, is it going to embrace Atma? It is like Navarati Lovaji taking that trophy after winning that Wimbledon. So at the end of this line, once this person understands what Atma, pure Atma is, and goes out of Panchakosha view, when the flip happens, is he flipping? Is he still keeping his identity to embrace Atma? I have obtained Atma. That tricky question one has to understand. Basically, the identity is being given up. Once the identity is given up, the flipping cannot happen. While looking at that side itself, the identity has been given up. अभी कहाँ पे flip करके आत्मा को करेंगे? And also while that identity, the right identity is happening and the wrong identity is being given up. See, that's a tricky point one has to understand. As you give up the wrong understanding, the right understanding is there instantly. No moment is, not even one single moment of distance. There is no time distance at all. Spatial distance is just impossible. You realize where you are. You don't have to travel anywhere to realize yourself. You realize where you are because you are already there. That's the reason. There is no distance. There is no spatial distance. There is no time distance also. As you understand Anatma to be Anatma, Atma is already available. It need not be created because it is already available. Everything is in that. And one is that actually. So the trick is, as you throw away the things which you are not, you have already arrived at who you are. After this, you cannot ask another question saying, boss, Guru, You told me everything what I am not. I am very happy now. Now you tell me who I am. But that can happen. Nothing wrong in it. So, when everything that you can wrongly identify with is identified, pointed out, and thrown out, you are already shining in your own glory. But Maya is powerful. It is available in this form of mind and intellect. It will still throw some kind of a doubt because mind wants to thrive as an individual person with its default understanding, with its previous understanding, with its prior understanding, how much ever it is the same mind and buddhi which has mumukshutvam, which wants to get out of this limited understanding. How much ever mumukshutvam is with that mind only, it will still pose this impediment because of Maya, its own power. It's such a powerful thing actually. Until the time of its last breath, it will ask a very valid doubt which can undo this entire understanding of Shastra of 1 year course. It can ask last one doubt. यार ये सब ठीक है यार, ये बोल रहे कैसे हो सकता है, बस that one doubt will separate you so much from this class to an extent that ये सब बकवास है. To that extent it can create a problem. This happens. So when you arrive at yourself, one is to understand that after that Atma is not going to be given as a trophy to this indweller. To each person, normally every course these days, people are so happy, they enroll to everything. I think these days you will also have a course saying, "Oh, I'll teach you, how to blabber." That course also may be there actually, and people will subscribe to it also because of what? They have a certificate. That's all. Everyone wants an acknowledgement from somewhere, someone. If the certificate is given, they are very happy. So in this case, that tendency will continue, saying, "Yes, boss. Now I understood everything what I am not. Now you give me what I am. You tell me what I am. Oh, I am that Atma. Where is that? Where is that? Arey yaar, मैं तो वही बोल रहा हूँ, you are everywhere. No. I want it like a trophy." So this tendency of mind to possess will still be there. And this is the reason sadhana is very important. Vairagya is that where we give up our tendency to have all the karma phala and enjoy all the karma phala. We just give it out. We give up that. That's what Vairagya is all about. And that was a Viveka born Vairagya and not Guru's force born Vairagya. Shastra's force born Vairagya. It is Viveka born Vairagya. When Shastra says that first a person has to be Viveki, he has to understand that, boss, there is something that is always permanent and everything else is impermanent. Understand this. And obviously the question is, we are pursuing the permanent thing, not the impermanent. If you are pursuing the impermanent thing, it is not Vedanta class, it has to be outside Vedanta class. That's where people are going to teach to pursue those things. So in this one, the pursuit is of that Nitya Vastu. So having thrown out all those things where we are not, all this Anitya Vastu, mind should not ask, now give it Brahman to me as a trophy or Atma to be a trophy. There, mind just drops the wrong understanding. Right understanding is already shining. This is why Shastra keeps on pointing out to Shushupti. In Shushupti, when mind is completely resolved, witness was available. Again, when you say witness, not as sensory perception, the witness is just witness, a pure witness, without the medium of sensory perception. So, when you get up, you are able to objectify and say very clearly that I slept well. And without cognizing during that time, enjoying cognitively that sleep, because the moment cognizance comes, you will have dream, you will have the sense of time, you will have the sense of space. Most of you would have experienced this. When you have dream, and when mind is still awake when you are sleeping, okay, you get up and guess the time. It can be many a times, exact to microseconds also. If you have a digital watch, and if you get up at some time, and if you want to guess even microseconds, exactly you can do. I have experienced this so many times, not the microseconds, at least hour and minute. Exactly I would think, it will be 5:25 now, it will be 5:25. And when I get up, sometimes I'll say it must be 2:05 now. Exactly, it will be 2:05. So if I can do that, I'm sure every one of us, we do this, we have this experience. Each one of us, we have this experience. So the time sense, like the way, many times you switch off that electronic watch or even computer, you switch off. When you switch on, the time part exactly comes. You have seen that, right? You don't have to reset. Luckily, every time you start the laptop, switch off and switch on. If you have to reset the time, it's going to be a pain. Mobile, when you reset, this happens. But if you switch off the mobile and switch on the mobile, this will not happen. If you go for a reset, then you may have to, switch, change all the button and other things, the timing and other things. So what I'm saying is the time sense is always coexistent with mind's functioning. Because, see, what is finally time? What is 1 second? Please understand what is 1 second. 1 second is our perceived distance between two thoughts. Our perceived distance between two thoughts is 1 second. If I count, we have a common thing, that's okay, that's the reason we are taking it common, that's the reason there is one sound available. Now, the clock is ticking, so I can say this. Tick, 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 tick. So this is giving me one common understanding. But understanding is what? I am waiting for the next tick to happen. That is thought. The distance between two thoughts is basically time. And the distance between two objects is space. That's all. This is what space is, this is what time is. That's all. So, when mind is active, time sensing is automatic. That's how it works. Because it is thought based. The tattva is thought based. That's the reason you can exactly guess that. Now, Sushupti is a time when this mind, who can actually understand and everything, sense, time and space, everything is resolved. He is gone on chutti. That is Sunday for him. During that Sunday, no cognition is happening at that point in time. In terms of the normal, good, feeling of sleeping at that point in time. But it comes as a recollection. If it has to come as a recollection, there should have been someone who was cognitive of that absence of dream. Otherwise, it cannot be understood. That witness is oneself. The Shastra says, boss, that witness which never required a body to witness. Its nature is only to witness. That cognitive chit. Its nature itself is witnessing only. That witness is you. So this is where the Chetak to bends, jumping in terms of this understanding, this identification has to happen. The indweller who was identifying with this Atma Anatma Sambandhit mind and intellect drops this wrong understanding. That's all. After that, that has no role. The moment, just like deep sleep, where dropping understanding has happened, the real understanding is already shining. The only difference between Sushupti and here is you are consciously dropping ignorance. In Sushupti, it is just happening mechanically due to whatever reason. When you hit that kind of a level of sleep, it is happening. Whereas when you do vichara, and through vichara, you dispel this wrong understanding. That is what is called Turiya, that is what is called Brahmagyana or Atmagyana. That's all. The Ananda is the same. Even in Sushupti, you have Ananda. That's what Anandamaya was all about. When you get something, when you have Priya Moda, Pramoda, Ananda comes in. That happiness is always there because it is always there. I gave this example of a keyboard, I think. In a keyboard, the swaras, the notes are already available inside. The external stuff is only a trigger. But the swaras are already inside. So, let us not worry about the trigger. Let us concentrate on the Swarupa, which is Ananda. Ananda is already inside. It is just oneself. It is not transactional Ananda. It is Swarupa Ananda. It is not a Vishaya Ananda. So, in this line, in the same lines as what was being said earlier, give up the wrong understanding of Shariratraya and Panchakosha, any of these being yourself, with the wrong identification with any of these things, you are shining that as Atma, ever pure. Now, again to clarify the understanding, after this class, one should not assume that in the next class, if someone is wrong in understanding, they can say this. To the next class, I will attend as Atma, as myself being Atma. This doesn't work that way. I was saying it's wrong understanding because if that right understanding is happening now, and if you are dropping the wrong understanding from mind and mind resolves, you are already a jnani now. After this, you don't need to attend class for understanding Atma. Of course, the Aikya part has to come. That's the reason, I think the next level is very important. Because you arrive at your pure self what it is. Boss, I have understood Atma what it is. Ideally, when you understand Atma, you understand the ultimate also. The only next step is, okay, because you are saying all these things, I have already understood. I have dropped my wrong understanding about all these things. And student said that I see void. And Guru corrected himself saying, boss, that void you are talking about is everything other than yourself. But you are there, right? I am saying that you only is that Atma. So now that pure Atma, when it is arrived at, you go closer towards that everythingness, understanding everything ideally. Because the Atma is something which cannot be touched, which cannot be reduced, which cannot be modified. It is just everything. It ever exists. The same thing is with Lord. So now when student will ask the next question, oh, okay, fine, now I am everything. But at the beginning I thought there is a Nitya Vastu. Now is that Nitya Vastu different from me? Is there another Nitya Vastu, the ultimate cause? That's when the Guru says, Tattvamasi, boss. You are that only. There cannot be two Nitya Vastus. When you have arrived at Atma as the Nitya Vastu, you are that Nitya Vastu which always exists. There is nothing other than you. You are that which you perceived. Earlier you thought there is a creator and you are a small jiva and you have world. Now you have thrown out world at the first level itself through Vairagya and all these things. And Viveka, Nitya Vastu Viveka, you have thrown out this. And from the skin to inside, how much ever you can take yourself wrongly, I have identified all those things for you. Your mind where this ignorance is located has given up those wrong understandings. Thereby you came to a situation where you said, boss, now I see void. Then I had to actually make you understand, yes, you see void other than yourself or including you. No, I am saying there is a void. So obviously I am understanding who I am. I am there. So, okay. So then Guru says, boss, that you, what you're talking about is you. That's it. Just take away that all this, mind, intellect, other stuff, that pure you is you, yourself. Then the question comes, yes, now I am everywhere. Where is this cause then? The moment we thought about Nitya Vastu Vivekam Brahma, Tad Vidiriktam Sarvamanityam. First Viveka was that. Now where is this Brahman? He says he is nowhere, he is you only. You are that. Tattvamasi. This is where that line comes. This is how it is proceeding. Now we are at a stage where the person is being told, shift these wrong understandings. These are the places where you get the wrong understanding. And before the right understanding is happening, the person is seeing a void. And then that correction is also done. It is like, sitting inside and when someone is calling, you say no one is inside the house when calling will happens. That cannot happen because you are there, na. You are saying you are not even. How come you can say that you are seeing a void? You are there. That you only we are talking about all the while. That is why it is Atma Jnana. It's oneself, self-knowledge. So that is you. This is what is happening. And that is what is going to come next as well. But I told most of this, what is going to come later as well, I told you just now. Because in that direction only, you will be able to appreciate what is happening now. So, in crux, this is what is happening and this is what was said in this line. Here I pause and let me look at the time. It's already 7:40. Okay, I didn't realize at all. In case people have time, I open up session for questions. Or people can say Hari Om and then leave.
Sir, not a question, but today I learned a couple of new concepts like what is time and what is the distance. So that's a really nice. So I was like amazed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, Mildi.
Good morning. The thing is, when you mentioned that you wake up and you realize the time, this has happened many a times.
Huh.
Not exactly, but it must have been 3 or 2 o'clock. Like you just wake up and then you just think about the time. This has happened many a time. So I realized that not exactly. Maybe I need to work further
But
for
that's
that.
okay. You have to just get a clue of it that that you sense time. That's all. That's more than enough.
Okay.
Because
But why do you think why do we judge, like we are in deep sleep, right? Then when we wake up, why do we think about the time that it must have been? I mean, I have experienced that when I woke up midnight, by some noise or by something, and I have just guessed it even without looking at the clock. But why do we think about that time?
see, we just want to challenge ourselves to understand it's like a puzzle we pose to ourselves. So, see, every time, we want to have the sense of Ananda. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Having disturbed in the sleep, which Ananda you can find? The only Ananda you can find is let me guess the time. If I am sensing the time better, I am happy. That's all. With Ananda, you go back to sleep again.
Yes. Okay, maybe I have 2-3 more hours I can sleep.
Yeah.
That kind of Ananda.
Yeah, you're
right?
happy, so happily you can go to sleep. The other way is, if you don't do this trick, you'll be stuck. अरे क्यों यार इतना आवाज कर रहा है कि मैं उठ के अभी एक बार जग गई तो मैं नींद नहीं हो सकता है. All this, if you think you can't sleep, bad deal. So always you proceed towards Ananda only. So it is a trick. Just let me guess time. हाँ ठीक है. और you say,
Correct.
अच्छा बाकी लोग सो रहे क्या? अच्छा वो लोग भी नहीं सो रहे, ठीक है मेरे लिए ठीक है, तो मैं सो जाती हूँ अभी. ठीक है. Something like this, you should get Ananda. Finally, Ananda is very important actually,
True. You made me think about it, that why do we think about time?
Yeah. See, we want to be happy. Finally, we want to be happy. Shastra is only saying that you have a wrong conception about being happy. Happiness is always there and you are happiness. That's what the Shastra is saying actually. Because why are you worried actually? You thought sometime, for example, just imagine if I say, I want to be a father. I have 2 kids actually. I am already a father. I am saying I want to be a father. It will be so stupid, So Shastra has to say, you see, you have kids. If you have kids, means you are a father already, right? Correct. I might have forgotten or whatever, dementia, whatever it is. But Shastra has to come and say, boss, you already have. So Titiksha, Satvik, these are your kids only. And if you have a doubt, just imagine this is how we behave. No, how to prove it? It has to go to all these reports where I have signed, there are my kids. And I've admitted them to school and all. See, this is your own paper, your own signature. Do you recognize this at least? I do recognize. So they are kids and you are already a father. Oh, thank you. This is a realization. And realization of what? Me being a father, which I was already. Similarly, Vedanta is only pointing out that you are already that Vastu, which is of ever nature of pureness only and Ananda only.
Okay.
Thanks. So that is the deal actually. You can't get a deal better than this. Because everyone thrives and strives moving towards Ananda and they base it based on mind's disposition, likes and dislikes, and the way they want world to entertain them, right? And that's so funny. I mean, we should have one session where each one can just discuss what is Ananda for them, and you will see opposing things. Take simple food itself. A person can say, give me everything other than sweet. थाली में स्वीट के अलावा सब कुछ दे दो मुझे ठीक है, लेकिन स्वीट रख दिया तो मुझे प्रॉब्लम है. So that is a problem. Then the other person says, boss, do one thing. मेन थाली में पूरा स्वीट दे दो, साइड डिश में थोड़ा सा कुछ दे दो चलेगा, बाकी चीज. Such a varying situation, but each of them they are happy. That happiness is just the same. It's just the same, just like energy. I gave this example earlier also. We have different kinds of fuels. You have dust, what do you call it? Rice husk you can say. That can be burnt. Once it is burnt again, it's finally energy and you can convert it into power, Anything that is at least okay. We will stop with heat itself. For heat, you can burn anything. You can burn anything. Doesn't matter at all. So at the level of those items, something can be a biofuel, something can be a fossil fuel, something can be something else actually. petrol, whatever it is. Each of them can be different source. But when it comes to energy level, they are all the same. Similarly, Ananda, when it comes to the experience of Ananda of everyone, Ananda is just the same. But only the means which they are seeing is different. And funnily, if there are 5 persons, okay, 5 persons may have different things which will give them Ananda, but Ananda is exactly the same. If you take the same person 1 for example, at different times he will have conflicting things which will give him Ananda.
True.
Today he will be happy if his daughter is with him. The next day he is happy if his daughter is not with him. So whatever it is, this can happen. So the same person itself is changing his benchmark of what Ananda is actually. Then what kind of Ananda it is? So finally Ananda is Ananda. Our understanding that the way I want Ananda, it has to come. That's where the problem is. Ananda is like the notes which are already available in the keyboard. If we think that someone has to come and strike Sa, only then I'll be Ananda, that's a problem. I already have Sa inside. In fact, I have all the 7 notes inside. It is just that external world is giving me a feeling that it is, kindly invoking me, but finally it is me. I have all the things. I have Ananda, I have music in me only. It is just that, external world is triggering that happiness is in me. To that extent, happiness is very useful. That's why in that Anandamaya Kosha, it was very nicely pointed out. Every time you pick up a moment of happiness, that is Anandamaya. Only understanding one should have is, you are that everything, you are that Ananda itself. And what is that you are talking about? You want Ananda. You are already a father, you can't be a father. No? You are already a father. You can't cease to be a father actually. That's where it is.
Correct.
So that's understanding, yeah. Okay, fine. We'll chant the concluding verse, Purnamada. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Have a nice day, all of you.
Hari Om. Same to you. Thank you.